Good morning. I don't know if you're going to follow this live or follow it on the replay because we had a little glitch on which direction the camera was facing. This being our very first live, it's a learning experience, right? It's always fun to do something for the first time. And it's Valentine's month, and that's why I thought it'd be fun to make something fun for dessert for your sweetie, like crepes. Now, if you're wondering, how do you pronounce crepes? As Americans, we call them crepes. But in France, they're called crepes. And I studied in France back in the 70s when I was in college. And one of my favorite things was to buy them on the street. There are crepe makers that cook them on the street, and they're just beautiful and wonderful to eat. So I thought it'd be fun to make some here with you, and you'll see just how easy they are. The reason I chose to go live was because there's no editing here, okay? So you'll see from start to finish that they really are that easy. I've titled this Crepe 2 Ways because I'm going to show you a couple different ways to make them and a couple different ways to serve them, all right? So let's start with the making first. Our ingredients are, and the ingredients will be in the description box. Our ingredients are a cup of flour. Measure out my flour here. And you'll put all your dry ingredients together first. A tablespoon of granulated sugar. And you know I always use the superfine sugar just because it just mixes in a little bit easier. Tablespoon of sugar, and then if you're not using salted butter, you want to add about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Okay, you're going to whisk that together just to get it mixed. If you recognize this from my gadgets video, this was the expandable whisk, and I have found it to be really, really good. You're going to whisk those together just to mix them up, and then make a little hole in the center. And in the center is where we're going to put our our wet ingredients, okay? The first is a cup of milk, and I'm going to just put in a part of it just to get it going. This happens to be half almond milk, half oat milk, but really this is a classic recipe, and it calls for whole milk, but we just don't drink whole milk in our house, so any kind of milk will actually work just fine. So I'm going to put in half of that, and then a 1/4 cup of water. And you can just stay focused. My videographer, Sweetie, here is watching for me while I get my 1/4 cup of water from the other side of the room. 1/4 cup of water, and then 2 eggs. It's always good to have your eggs at room temperature. Don't have to, but and it certainly won't hurt things drastically if you don't, but it's a good baking practice. And then 2 tablespoons of butter that you have melted in the microwave or on the stovetop and then let cool. So 2 tablespoons here. And then 3/4 of a teaspoon of vanilla. And I just eyeball it here. All right, now we're going to whisk this together. And then we're going to add the rest of our milk to it, because you'll see here that the batter is really going to be a little too thick for what we want to do. But at least this gets all the ingredients incorporated, and you really want it to be without lumps at all. So we'll add the rest of our milk. And as I said, this is a classic recipe. You could use this for sweet crepes or savory crepes. If you use it for savory crepes, like a little bit of ham, a spear of asparagus, some bechamel sauce on the top. That would be really good. Just don't put the sugar in, and the rest of the recipe will be just fine. Okay, now what we have here, let me get these out of the way. What we have here is our beautiful batter, but we've whisked in a lot of air into that batter, and you don't really want that. So what we need to do is put it in the fridge for 30 to 60 minutes. Now, this is alive, but we're not going to wait 30 to 60 minutes, okay? Through the magic of YouTube, I made up a batch last night, and so we will use that batch to actually, to actually do our cooking. All right, so let me get that batch over, and this is the second of 2 ways. This is crepe 2 ways, okay? One is in a bowl if you just want to mix it by hand, or if you have a blender or a Ninja, a NutriBullet. This was super easy. I put my wet ingredients, my milk and my water in first, and then all the dry ingredients on top, turn it over, put it in the NutriBullet, blitz it for 15 seconds, and it's done. Put a lid on it and put it in the fridge. And then the next day you can actually make your crepes. Okay, so I'm going to turn on my stove and get these pans heated up, because I am cooking these 2 different ways. And these pans take a while to heat up. So let's chat for just a minute while these heat up, okay? I'm using some Pampered Chef pans, and they are not a sponsor of this. However, if Pampered Chef would like to sponsor me, I would be more than happy to sign a sponsorship agreement. But what I've found with these pans is that the more non-stick you can have, the better. Okay, we're going to cook these 2 different ways. We're going to use a crepe spreader in one pan, the larger pan, and then we're going to use just the tilt method in the other pan, so that if you don't have one of these, you've got an option with this other pan. Okay, so once it gets hot and you can tell, when you put your hand on it, if you need to pull it away, then it's pretty hot. It takes my pans 2 to 3 minutes to get hot. If you're using the crepe spreader, you're probably not going to need much in the way of oil if you're using a non-stick pan. With a pan where you tilt it, and you'll see what I mean by the tilt method, you'll probably want to brush it with just a little bit of canola oil or something like that. I wouldn't use butter, but some oil that will help you lift it out of the pan. Okay. All right, let's see if they're getting nice and warm. I'm going to check and see how we're doing here. Okay, so let's start with the tilt method. This pan actually heats a little bit faster. I'll leave this one on. So I am going to oil the pan, and with this batter, just going to shake it up a little bit. It doesn't have to be room temperature. It can be straight out of the fridge if you'd like, but we're just going to use a 1/4 cup of the batter. So I'm actually going to measure it out just to be on the safe side. Okay, but first I'll lightly grease the pan. And I don't know if you can see the pan over here, sweetie. But, okay, so here's my 1/4 cup. I can hear it sizzle, which is great. And then I just tilt it like this to get it around to the edges. Now, what you're looking for with this, once you put it back on the heat, I'm turning my heat down just a bit. because I don't want it to be too high. Okay, we want them golden. We don't want them burned on the other side. What you're looking for here is light brown around the edges and dry on the top. Okay, so it is dry on the top. Let's just take this, and this is the flipper that comes with the crepe spreader. I'm going to let those sit for just a minute while I show you the spreader over here in this other pan. And you'll see how easy this is. You put the spreader here where half of it's on the batter itself and half of it's not. And you just start going in a circle like this. Oops. You can fill in any holes. And the reason I use this large pan, I thought when I first got this spreader, I thought, oh my goodness, it's so short. It's going to make these tiny crepes, but it doesn't at all. Okay, let's see how this one is doing. Oh, perfect. Look at that, nice and little brown on the other side. Let me get a plate here. We'll put them on. And we're just going to stack a few, and then we'll decorate them. I think it's probably got enough oil from the first time. You can see that having your pan hot, I don't know if you can hear from my microphone, but it's sizzling when it goes in the pan. That's what you want. They almost cook immediately. And here we have on the one with the crepe spreader, again, nice brown on the edges. Now what you'll notice is that the one with the crepe spreader is actually quite a bit thinner texture-wise than the one that we tilt. You probably can't see it here, but you can see my fingers through the one that I use the crepe spreader on. You can a little bit here, but not as much. So either way is going to work just fine for you. Let me make one more, and then we'll decorate. You need a really light hand with this crepe spreader. You just gently roll it around, and it doesn't really matter if you've got rough edges here. Those can be your inside edges when you're folding or rolling. Okay, let's try this again. Nice. You can always go for a little bit more brown if you'd like. Really doesn't matter. What you are looking for, though, is the dry top, because the dry, just like making pancakes, you know, you don't flip a pancake while it's still wet on the top. You wait until it's dry, and then you flip, and you know it's going to be done inside. It's the same way here. Okay, let me. There we go. That was very thin, wasn't it? Okay, we'll let it cook, and then I probably could have used a wider spatula on this, but you'll see it will actually turn out just fine. Okay, we're going to take this tilty one. Oh, look at that. That's just perfect. We'll take the tilty one and we'll put it on our stack. Now you can, if you're making a lot of these, if you've got a group of sweeties that you're making crepes for. One time, oh, years and years ago, I said for a church event, I said, oh, it would be fun. We had a special singer coming in for this Valentine's evening event. And I said, let's make crepes for everybody. Well, there were probably 100 people at this event, and it takes a lot of crepes to give people a decent sized dessert. So you can actually take these and put your oven on low, 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 just to keep them. I would not put, you could put maybe parchment paper between them, but you really don't need to. There's enough butter in the batter that as long as the the chance of them sticking is going to be pretty slight. Probably what will happen more is that they would dry out a little bit as opposed to getting too mushy. Okay, so we'll come back to this one that looks a little iffy. Okay, and let's come over here and we're going to put them together. Get rid of my dirty dishes here. I can tell we're going to be eating crepes for a while. All right, so you've got your nice plate. And one of my favorite ones when I was in France was just simply butter and sugar. Okay, so I'm going to get myself another brush here. And I've got leftover butter from our recipe. So just butter like this and sprinkle some sugar on. And how they eat them in France is generally like this, in fours, and except what they cook them on is a huge thing, and they've got a turner that's about this long. And so, you have a big crepe like this, you cut it into fours, and it's a handful for you to eat. Okay, so that's just butter and sugar. You want to make sure that the pretty side, like on this one, this is the one with more brown on it, put that side down. And let's just butter this one a little bit and put some berries on. Get myself a spoon here. We'll put some berries on. And this one will just roll up. Okay, just like that. And then when we're done, we'll put some more berries on the top. Okay, this is, I can tell it's thinner because this was the one that I used the spreader for. It just feels lighter. We'll do this one and we'll fold it as opposed to rolling it up. There is no right way to eat it. So however looks good to you. Okay, we scooch the berries over like this. Yeah, I like to have some of the berries kind of poking out. We'll put a few on the top. And I also fixed up some Nutella. I melted some Nutella, and we'll just do a little drizzle like this. I can tell my videographer is going to really like this. Now, the reason I have to have someone videotaping this as opposed to me just doing it on my cell phone is because, believe it or not, YouTube considers me a small YouTuber. That's a joke. Yes, of course, I'm a small YouTuber. And if you have fewer than, I don't know, it's 1,000 or 10,000 subscribers, they don't let you use your phone for these lives. You have to use your computer, the webcam on your computer. So it's a little bit of a hassle. All right, so powdered sugar. covers a multitude of sins, doesn't it? That is a very nice finishing touch to our crepes. So you can see how easy this is. By the time you mix it up, that's just a minute or so. The big waiting in the fridge is the 30 to 60 minutes. But then cooking them, once you come up with a system, whether you're using the tilt system or a spreader, they go really, really quickly. And I have this much batter left. So I only used probably for 4 crepes, one of which is still in the pan over there, my poor sad crepe. I probably used half the batter. So you can judge from there how much you would want to use. I hope you've enjoyed the live, and I would love to have you join us again for a regular video. We post every Tuesday, some of it in the kitchen, most of it out. We do travel, talk with interesting people, interviews, that sort of thing. Things that will help you connect with your curiosity. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.